Jack and Verge slog through the darkness. Jack asks if they can talk, and Verge agrees to listen to his story. Jack tells him about his experiences in the past 12 years, dividing them into 5 incidents. In the first incident, Jack gets stopped by a woman needing help with a flat tire. Since her tire tool is broken, Jack suggests getting it repaired at Sonny's shop. The woman assertively asks Jack for a ride, and although Jack is reluctant, he takes her there. Along the way, the woman nervously mumbles the possibility of Jack being a serial killer. However, she apologizes for the crude remark but then goes on about how he could easily kill her. Ultimately though, the woman argues she can defend herself against Jack with the broken tire jack. Arriving at Sonny's shop, the lady asks Jack to wait so he can drive her back because she doesn't want to ride with another stranger. Jack obliges. Arriving back at her car, Jack attempts to fix the flat tire, but the nut breaks again. Annoyed by the woman's constant chatter, Jack mentions his appointment. However, she pleads with him to drive her to Sonny's shop one more time, so Jack reluctantly agrees. Along the way, the woman comments that Jack can't be a serial killer because he's too much of a wimp. Angered by her words, Jack abruptly stops the van, takes the tire jack, and strikes the woman's head. In his distorted perspective, Jack views his killings as artwork similar to elegant Gothic cathedrals. Jack planned on becoming an architect, but his mother compelled him toward engineering, thinking it was a more profitable path. Jack bought a piece of land where he planned on building his house before he murdered the woman. Jack's determination to construct the house on his own, according to Verge, indicates that he may have OCD. Jack admits that as a child, he felt compelled to keep everything tidy, but bemoans the fact that he couldn't keep the walk-in freezer he bought on Prospect Avenue up to the same standard. When he reaches the building, Jack takes the woman's body inside. As the new owner, Jack is frustrated at another room he can't seem to open. The police surprisingly never visit him, even though the woman's car is still visible from the main road. The police were unable to look into the situation because it falls outside of their jurisdiction. In the second incident, Jack approaches a widow Claire at her door after she leaves the grocery store. Jack poses as an insurance agent who can increase her pension. Claire lets Jack in because she is eager to get more money. Wanting to make tea, Claire heads toward the kitchen. However, Jack grabs her, choking her until she collapses. She attempts to get up but he chokes her again and stabs her in the chest. Jack takes a picture after placing Claire's body on a chair. He then wraps her body in a blanket, fastening it with a rope. Jack obsessively cleans the floor before leaving. But another episode of OCD forces him to check the house multiple times, despite hearing police sirens around. When Jack is finally finished, a policeman arrives to check on an adjacent house. Not wanting the cop to check his van, Jack pulls Claire's body, hiding it in the backyard. Eventually, the cop approaches and checks the rear end of the vehicle. Seeing nothing out of the ordinary, the officer tells Jack there was a minor break-in nearby. Jack pretends he knew Claire's husband, and tells the cop that Claire hasn't answered the door. This prompted the officer to check inside the house, simultaneously allowing Jack to enter and check for the bloodstains. Eventually, he is told to leave the house, so Jack ties Claire's body to his van and drives away. Jack returns to Prospect Avenue while leaving a bloody trail in his wake. He arrives, and the rain begins to fall, washing away the evidence. Jack, even though not religious, suddenly believes a higher power watches over him. Jack admits to being a psychopath. He went to great lengths to appear sympathetic in order to blend in, copying images of people with various facial expressions to portray emotions. Verge wonders if Jack was sad that any chance of the police apprehending him was destroyed when the blood trail washed away. However, Jack was pleased not to receive any punishment. When he was young, Jack watched farmers cutting the meadows in unison. Afterward, young Jack grabs a duckling from the river, cuts one of its feet, and returns it to the water to drown. Soon, Jack returns to killing. He kisses an unsuspecting woman and strangles her until she's passed out. Murdering people seemed to have lessened Jack's OCD, prompting him to take more risks. Unsatisfied with the pictures he's taken, Jack decides to make new ones, returning to the woman's apartment. Along the way, he feels the need to kill an old woman, so he runs her over. Verge believes Jack has become reckless. Jack returns to the woman's apartment and takes the old woman's body. He is amused with the photographs he produced. He then sends one to the local newspaper, signing it Mr. Sophistication. Verge asks if Jack ever felt he wanted to raise a family. Jack never did, but it reminded him of what he considered one of his masterpieces. The third incident, Jack invites a single mother and her 2 sons, Grumpy and George, to a hunting trip. They arrive at a forest clearing site where Jack shows George a rifle and a shotgun, but tells them he finds hunting distasteful. Jack takes George to a tower to showcase rifle skills by shooting at stationary targets, while the mother gets ready for a picnic. In their conversation, Jack compares the mother and her two sons to a mother deer and her fawns. He explains to Verge that when hunters pursue them, they strategically target the youngest fawn first, as the older ones are capable of surviving without it. If the hunters manage to shoot the mother but fail to kill the other fawns, the chances of the remaining fawn's survival become slim. Following the demise of the smallest fawn, the hunters will proceed to target the larger fawn before ultimately eliminating the mother. Jack initiates the hunt for the mother and sons, causing them to seek refuge. Suddenly, Grumpy dashes across the field, and Jack shoots him in the leg and back. The panicked mother rushes towards her injured son, leaving George behind. Noticing George peeking, Jack takes aim and shoots him in the head, causing the mother's cries to intensify. Later, Jack arranges the two boys' lifeless bodies on the picnic mat and compels the mother to feed them. When Jack inquires about her favorite number, she reluctantly reveals it is 12. Jack proceeds to the wooden tower and begins counting from 1. The woman, who appears devoid of willpower, wanders aimlessly, searching for a hiding place. Upon reaching the count of 12, Jack shoots the woman but fails to kill her. Descending from the tower, he discovers her in a ditch and shoots her in the back. As their journey continues, Jack starts feeling unwell. Verge explains that it's due to the acidity in their surroundings and advises Jack to adjust to it. Jack transports Grumpy to the walk-in freezer before depositing the body in the anteroom. He lets it remain there until rigor mortis sets in. When Jack comes back, he proceeds to insert wires into the corpse, enabling him to manipulate its body and face, causing it to wave and smile. In the 4th incident, Jack visits Jacqueline's apartment, where she mistakenly believes he is physically challenged. Jack has been using a crutch to appear harmless. However, when he arrives at her place one evening, she tearfully declines to engage in conversation with him, expressing discomfort with the way he gazes at her. Jack retreats to a separate room and employs a phone to establish communication with Jacqueline. She shares her anxieties about him unexpectedly abandoning her, leading Jack to assure her that he won't do so. Now beginning to become drunk, Jack begins speaking rudely to Jacqueline, suggesting that she's a simpleton. Redirecting the conversation, Jacqueline asks Jack about his occupation. In his intoxicated state, Jack boldly confesses that he is a serial killer who has taken the lives of 60 individuals. Despite Jacqueline's initial disbelief, her conviction starts to solidify when Jack traces lines on her chest. Filled with apprehension, she rushes outside to inform a police officer about Jack's confession. Unfortunately, the officer dismisses her account, assuming she is intoxicated. Pursuing her, Jack confesses to the officer that he is a serial killer. However, the policeman disregards his statement and urges them to refrain from drinking. Once the officer departs, Jack apologizes to Jacqueline, who pardons him and brings him back to her apartment. While Jack is unconscious on the couch, Jacqueline contacts her friend for pills, but the phone line is disconnected. She attempts to exit but finds the door locked from within, and she doesn't have her keys. As she pivots, she discovers Jack fully awake, clutching her keys. Jacqueline notices Jack is walking fine, allowing her to conclude he's Mr. Sophistication. Jack ties her with the telephone cord and gags her mouth. He then asks her why men are always seen as guilty. Jack cuts her breast along the lines he drew earlier. He then leaves one of her breasts on a police car's windshield. Verge observes that Jack focuses on discussing the women he killed who he perceives as unintelligent, raising questions about his sense of superiority and potential arousal during their murder. Jack refutes these notions but concedes that Mr. Sophistication finds it simpler to kill women due to their increased compliance. Jack remarks that the cups in his walk-in freezer must have started decomposing to some extent before he could freeze them. The two have a long-winded discussion about art and decomposition that we will fast forward. Continuing their discussion, Jack expresses his admiration for the German dive bomber, the Stuka. He mentions how sirens were attached to the plane's undercarriage, instilling fear in the hearts of those who heard its approach. According to Jack, the inventors of such iconic creations are often overlooked or disregarded. Just like the beauty of decay, he laments that society tends to label these icon creators as ultimate evildoers, whereas for him, the icons they bring forth represent extravagant art. Verge interrupts Jack's explanation, declaring that he has never accompanied anyone as despicable as Jack. He further elucidates his stance on art and love by pointing to an ancient oak tree in the Buchenwald concentration camp, the same place where the poet Johann Wolfgang von Goethe composed one of his most significant works. Despite previously finding the idea absurd, Jack unexpectedly kept one of Jacqueline's breasts as a serial killer's trophy. He had stitched it into a wallet. Considering it to be an icon of sorts, Jack makes no effort to conceal his disturbing wallet when he retrieves cash from it to purchase ammunition. In the 5th incident, Jack abducts 6 men and transports them alive to the freezer. He binds them, aligns their heads in a single row, and proceeds to end their lives with a single full metal jacket bullet. As he prepares to load the gun, the last captive he kidnapped points out that Jack is not loading a full metal jacket bullet. Upon realizing the man's observation, Jack exits the freezer and heads back to the store. He scolds Al, the store clerk, for incorrectly labeling the box and requests a replacement. However, Al insists on seeing the receipt and ID, causing Jack to leave. Suddenly, Al makes a phone call. Meanwhile, Jack goes to visit his friend, SB, hoping to acquire the bullets. However, before he can reach SB, Jack accidentally drives his van into a ditch and decides to abandon it. Upon arriving at the trailer, SB aims his gun at Jack, revealing that the police suspect him of robbery. After SB contacts the police, Jack expresses gratitude for being apprehended by his best friend. He believes that SB has liberated him from the urge to steal. While concealing a knife beneath the table, Jack requests that SB lower his gun, assuring him that he won't attempt to flee. SB complies and places his firearm on the table, then pours a drink for Jack. When SB hands Jack the glass, Jack swiftly stabs him in the throat. Jack retrieves a full metal jacket bullet from the cabinet, but his departure is interrupted by the arrival of a police car. Jack dons a robe and assumes the guise of SB, then shoots the unsuspecting officer as he enters the trailer. Returning to the freezer, Jack loads the bullet into the rifle but struggles to focus the scope. To create more space, he forcefully opens the locked door. As he prepares the rifle, the police surround the building. Jack adjusts the scope and hears a voice beckoning him. When he switches on the light, he discovers Verge sitting in the corner, introducing himself. Verge reveals that he has been accompanying Jack all along without his knowledge. Amidst the police's demands for surrender, Verge encourages Jack to construct another house and find the elusive material he had been seeking. Jack gathers the copses and binds them together with wires, arranging them into the shape of a house. He turns to Verge, seeking his approval. Verge enters the house, complimenting Jack on his creation. As the police break into the freezer, Jack follows Verge into an underground hole. They navigate through the darkness, wading through water. Curious, Jack asks Verge if they are allowed to converse. Verge agrees to listen to Jack's story but doubts it will contain anything he hasn't heard before. Descending into the ocean inside a bubble, Jack becomes aware of a buzzing sound. Verge explains that it is the concentrated wailing of the tormented souls in hell, which grows louder as they venture deeper. Guided by Verge, they navigate through a dark cave constructed from human bodies. They cross the river Styx and arrive at a window overlooking the Elysian fields, but access to the area is denied to them. With tears in his eyes, Jack watches men harmoniously tending to the meadows. Eventually, they reach a broken bridge spanning a pit, leading to the deepest circle of hell. Verge informs Jack that he should go a few circles higher, but he senses Jack's desire to witness everything. When Jack inquires about the other end of the bridge, Verge reveals it as an exit from hell. Jack contemplates scaling the rock walls to reach the other side, but Verge warns against it, as many have tried and failed. Nevertheless, Jack takes the risk and bids farewell to Verge. As he attempts to cross, Jack slips and plummets into the deepest circle of hell. What did you think of the movie? It was supposedly inspired by the true crime story of Ted Bundy.
Subscribe for more videos like this. Turn on notifications and leave a like. It really helps the channel.